Night and welcome to Mercy Volunteer Corps' frequently asked questions. Tonight we are talking with two Mercy volunteers serving in Guyana, Micaela and Emily. They're going to answer your questions about what it's like to serve in Guyana, and feel free to leave questions in the chat. They're happy to answer them live for you. Emily and Micaela, thanks for being here. If you could introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, where you went to school, and a little bit about your service site.
So I'm from California. Oh, my name's Emily. I'm from California originally, but I went to school in Indiana. I went to University of Notre Dame. I studied biology, and I was pre-med. So for like a gap year program and a year of service, I was really looking for some type of medical experience. So here in Guyana, I'm working as an EMT at St. Joseph's. My name is Micaela. I am from New York, and I went to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut, and I studied psychology. And I am working as a teacher at St. John Bosco School.
Very good. Thanks so much. And again, if you guys could just be a little bit louder. We're hearing all the lovely sounds of Guyana behind you, which we love, but we would really like to hear from you tonight. Thinking back to as you were considering a year of service, what kind of pulled you to serving internationally and Mercy Volunteer Corps in Guyana?
Um, um, I mean, I think for me, I think international service is just like a really unique opportunity. I mean, like with COVID and everything, I always wanted to study abroad. Like I've always been very drawn to like gaining more of a global experience, and just like seeing how other people live in a new culture and everything. So like the opportunity to do something like that after graduation before just jumping right into a job or continuing with education, was just, I don't know, a really big draw for me, something I feel like I wanted to do for a while. And then I just really liked MVC's program and the like connections and support that MVC offers with the Sisters of Mercy in Guyana. I just really like the way that the program was set up with like the 1 year of service and just the different service sites that were available. So I think that's why it was appealing for me. Yeah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do right after graduation. I knew I wanted to take at least a year, um, like not working ideally, but I was kind of toying around with. Sorry, I was kind of toying around with multiple ideas. Some of them were like research or like moving abroad for a year, and then some of them were like service, and some of them were like healthcare positions. And so then when I actually encountered MPC, I feel like it really combined all of those things I was looking for into like a neatly wrapped little box for me. Um, and it just kind of stuck out as like almost a perfect opportunity of all the things I was kind of looking for when I got here.
Wonderful. So at your service sites, tell us what your day-to-day looks like. What's your role? And then specifically for Mercy Volunteer Corps, we focus on compassionate service. So in what ways do you feel like you are learning about compassionate service or engaging in service that is compassionate, mutual?
So my role is interesting because, like I said, I'm an EMT, but here at Mercy Hospital, there's no like ambulance service, so I am stationed primarily or directly in the emergency room. And just because of the way the hospital is set up, there wasn't really a role for an EMT there. So I've kind of taken on a lot of different responsibilities, like clerkship and also like nursing. Like everyone fully calls me a nurse, which was definitely something to adapt to. And I've taken on a lot more responsibilities that I definitely wouldn't have taken on like as an EMT in the States. Um, and that was something that A was like a really big adjustment to me, and B really like challenged me in terms of like compassionate service because I feel like I was really focused on like me and what I was gaining from the experience or like what I was learning, and it took me and like what I was allowed to be doing. Like I was really anxious about like what's my role, how do I fit in here, and it took a second for me to kind of step back and realize like my role is just to be whatever they need me to be. And so like how I engage in compassionate service in the hospital is one, like being compassionate towards my patients and my coworkers, but that's a given. And then two is just like understanding that I fill empty space and kind of not reducing myself to that, but being willing to just take on whatever they throw at me or like take whatever role's given to me without having a clear expectation set in my mind. I think for me, I've worked in two different schools since I have been here, and it's mostly been like trying to meet the students where they're at, because they all come from like very different backgrounds. They have different home lives, different experiences and families and everything like that. But just trying to treat every student the same, but meet them where they're at, make sure they're all getting the same information and access to education while also like treating them with like respect and dignity, not making them like feel bad for not knowing how to read or write. So just trying to cater the way that we're like providing information to not make anyone feel bad, while also just like being mindful that their experiences are very different than mine. Like when I was that age, and the way schools work are different than the way that like I went through school. So just trying to like be respectful of, I guess, the way that the students experience life is different than mine, and I'm not trying to like completely change that or like come in and be like this is the way we're doing it. Like meeting them where they're at and me being willing to adjust to do the best that I can to help teach them.
Definitely. Thinking about your daily life in Guyana, how is it different than life in the States?
Um, I mean, I feel like most things are very different here, to be perfectly honest. Um, we have to get water from like water fill stations. You can't drink the tap water, so just being mindful of water is just something that's different. That's an added like responsibility or chore that we have to factor in every week. Everything seems to take a lot longer than you would think it would in the States. But that's mostly because we're relying on public transportation a lot with the minibuses, taking that to and from work, to and from the grocery store, the markets. So, I mean, with traffic and just making stops, that would just take a lot longer to get somewhere than having your own car and just driving quickly somewhere. Also just being mindful of living simply. We're definitely cooking a lot more than I was used to coming right out of college. I lived on campus in the dorms, so I was used to the dining hall, like not really having to cook a lot, but we probably cook every single meal most days of the week unless we're like meeting friends or something. But so I feel like that's all very different. I don't know. Yeah, like she said, absolutely everything is different. Like there is actually, I feel like almost nothing like remains the same. Like you don't even feel the same. Um, I think the biggest thing for me to adjust to was like the weather, and know the fact that whatever temperature it is outside is also what temperature it is inside. Like for example, last night I was trying to fall asleep and it's wet season right now, so it was like pouring rain and I was feeling like so cold. I had to get up and put sweatpants on and socks. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever had to do that. Like, I wonder how cold it is outside. And it was 86 degrees. And I was like, no way. So, but the funny thing is, it, even even though you kind of adjust, like you just always feel hot. Like we're just constantly sweaty and wet, but like
But so is everyone.
so
So
is
it's okay.
everyone. That's just a different part, like way of life. Is that like the outside conditions are also your inside conditions. That's okay. um,
And the mosquito nets, that's crazy. Sleeping with the mosquito net is wild.
yeah, the mosquito, just the
Just the
existence
bugs.
of mosquitoes, like the lizards, the mice. We were playing Heads Up the other day, and one of the answers was it was a tick, and Micaela was trying to get me to guess, and she was like, "It's what's in our house. It's what's in our house."
She's like, lizards, mice.
I was like, lizards, mice, cockroaches. No, she's like, no, absolutely none of those. But it's something you like adjust to too, and it doesn't even freak us out anymore. Like
It's just part of life. It's like camping. I don't know. Like inside.
also just like interactions with people are very different. So like the vocabulary people use is very different, and so it takes it's almost like English 2.0. Like you can tell that they're English words, but it just makes absolutely no sense until you've been here for probably like a month or two.
I still hear things that I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Which like
Yeah,
it's
same.
also okay to just be like, I'm so sorry, but I do not understand what you're saying. And people usually slow down. But
Yeah,
I think people are also very polite here. Like from coming from New York, like people are not this polite, but like people will get on the minibus and be like, "Good afternoon, everyone." I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like,
yeah.
I would never do that back home. So people are definitely more friendly and social, which has been very welcoming.
Or like if someone's beefing, they'll be like, and they texted me and they didn't even say good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. So like politeness and like friendliness, even to strangers, is different and
It's like an
welcome.
expectation.
Yeah,
Which is nice, being an outsider.
yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful to have that hospitality built into the culture. We have a question in the chat asking what the public transportation is like. What are the minibuses like?
Um, I take the minibuses a lot. I used to have to take them like I had to take like two or three. So there's all different minibuses. There's like a bus park, which is a big market in town, and there's just a ton of street corners. And buses are just all along the street corners. And they all have different routes. They go to different parts of like the city, sometimes out of the city, Georgetown too. But I kind of love them. Like they're crazy, but like they're one of my favorite things. Like they're usually playing really loud music, sometimes deafeningly loud. Um, but that also helped us like find music here because our music was like very different. But they usually run like the same routes, and you just go to a street corner, put out your hand, and get on the bus. And I mean, yeah, it's I don't know. I enjoy them a lot, and we see the same like drivers and conductors pretty frequently, so they recognize us now, and they're like, "Oh hey," I'm like, "Oh hi." So I enjoy the minibuses.
Yeah, me too. I take the bus to work every morning, and I used to like not be able to catch a bus in the mornings because they'd always be full and the bus driver wouldn't even pull over. But now, like the second I get out onto the corner, like there's a driver pulling over for me and like squishing people into a row to like make room for me. Like for context, the minibuses here, I don't think we said yet, are 15-person passenger vans, and so but they fit like 20 to 23 people because you like sit on each other and like
No
you just
personal
cram.
space.
Like
No
there's
personal
no personal space. Like I have fully like squatted in front of the seat and like not even had my butt on a seat before. Like, but the thing about like transportation here is we want to go if we want to go down the street, like probably a 5-minute drive. It takes us an hour because of like um just the bus system and like they run one route, so you got to take the whole loop or you got to go around to the park or like the buses will be full one way. But first
Also,
of all,
it's
fun.
like really hot. Like it's very humid. So like yes, we could walk sometimes, but it's just like not realistic. Like you're like dying from heat, dripping sweat. So like sometimes the bus is just like worth it. Also, they're decorated really crazy. Like they're painted all decked out. Like They have themes.
Yeah, some of them are themed, like Winnie the Pooh, like the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah,
Like,
one's American themed actually. It has
yeah,
like a
it's like
bald
a
eagle and
USA
like a
bus.
flag. Um,
So fun.
it
Um,
is.
we have another question. It was just Thanksgiving recently, so they're wondering what Thanksgiving is like in Guyana.
So, oh, I thought. um, so no one here celebrates Thanksgiving like on their own, which kind of makes sense. I think it's a U.S. holiday, but everyone still knows about it. So like, even though like we had to go to work on Thanksgiving, like my doctor in the ER wrote like a little handwritten little note like Happy Thanksgiving, it's Turkey Day, and he was like, Emily, did you see the note I wrote for you? Like I hung it up. I was like, thanks. Um, but just being us two, I think we both kind of craved a little gathering for Thanksgiving, so we held like a Thanksgiving and a Friendsgiving. So our Thanksgiving was like a meal where we like ate with everyone who's kind of helped us out. So the sisters, some of like our drivers, just the people who have helped us get accustomed here and acquainted. And then the second like gathering we threw was more for like our friends and like the people we've met along the way. Even though I mean it's like it's very different from home. It still has like a Guyanese flavor. Like I think at our Friendsgiving, someone wanted to like take over the speaker and just played soca the whole time. And we were like, "This is our one day,
we
but
made
go
a
ahead."
playlist.
So and like it was a potluck and people brought like Guyanese chow mein and like glory, and so it was still like
We made mashed potatoes and like
yeah.
stuffing and stuff, but so it was like a nice mix. So yeah, we still
A
celebrate.
perfect Guyanese Thanksgiving. Thinking about like in what ways are you getting to know and immerse yourself in the local community?
I mean, I feel like we've kind of started. I mean, like starting out, it was mostly like through the Sisters of Mercy, we would try to get involved in things. Like before I started working at Bosco, we would go to the orphanage like maybe once a week just to kind of start to meet some of the boys and like the people who work there. We've gone to a local church. Um, and a lot of people were like gone. We were there for a few weeks and they were like, all new like visitors, like please stand to be welcomed. And people were like, stand up. And we're like, we've been here for weeks, like you just haven't seen us. So I think that, and then slowly we tried to be like a little bit more social, just like exploring different like businesses, restaurants, just kind of figuring out like what do Guyanese people do like for fun. Like so we tried that. Also holidays. There's a ton of holidays here that we don't really celebrate in the States. So Diwali just happened and they have like a really big it's called a motorcade. It's like a parade the night before Diwali. So we went to that and there were so many people just lined up on the streets and there were little like cultural celebrations that have gone on and we've definitely tried to go to as many things as we can just to learn about like the culture and get to experience holidays and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think like at the beginning we were making a really big effort to try to like find ways to immerse ourselves. And now that we've started to like meet people and make friends, I feel like it's another part of Guyanese culture is they want us to be included in everything. Like they cannot wait to show us like every part of it.
There's like holidays in February that they're like, we can't wait, and we're like, okay.
Yeah. Or everyone asks me like, have you been here? Have you done this? Have you done this? Like, I'll take you. It's like people I've met for the first time. They're like, oh, no one's taking you to the creek yet. Like, we're going next weekend. Like, I just met you. But everyone like really, really wants you to love Guyana, and that makes it really easy to be.
For sure. We've got so many great questions coming in the chat. We've got what do you miss the most from home?
Um, I think I miss stability, not stability, but almost like comforts that I don't have here. And those vary. Like sometimes I just miss my bed, or sometimes I miss being able to like see my family or see my friends, or like cuddle my dogs, or like just come home and like relax without having a million chores to do. And it's almost like a feeling. I almost miss a feeling of like comfort in a way of just like knowing what's going on. I think we've only been here like 4 months and we're still kind of like, we're still experiencing culture shock a little bit. Where a lot of the times I feel like we're very disoriented and confused, even though we've been here for so long, and it's hard to feel that way when you're seeking like comfort and homeliness. And I think I missed that the most. But it's also been incredible experience for growth. But when I do get homesick, like that's what it is.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's mostly like I miss my family, my friends, my dog. I miss my dog a lot. But recently I've really been missing the weather. Like I love fall. That is my favorite. Like autumn in New York when it's cold. Like I really miss that. Like all the leaves changing. So I feel like that's been hard for me recently. I've really missed that. But yeah, I mean kind of the same thing. Just like I don't know. I miss like routine. Like everything feels like it's been so all over the place, but chaos is also fun sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. I thought of something else I missed a lot too, and it was like the ease of if I want a sweet treat or I want to go get fast food. Like I live for that, and
I
we
miss
can't do
iced
that
coffee.
here. Yeah, like today, both of us, neither of us wanted to cook for dinner. Like we were so, and we have leftovers, and we were so anti like everything in our fridge, and all we wanted to do was like go down the street to get a sandwich. And but we were like, we don't want to have to like pay for a taxi and walk around in the dark and like get a bus, and it would
Pay for
probably
food.
yeah pay for food, and it would probably have taken us like for 30, 40 minutes versus at home it's like a 3 to 5, yeah, like go down the street, get food, which is good for simple living. Like we're kind of forced to embrace that, and it's a good way to keep us in check because then we just ended up like cooking and eating leftovers. So but it is something I miss, like being gluttonous.
It is a good practice to live simply. And Emily, you briefly mentioned like that these challenges have been areas of growth too. I know it's still pretty early in your service experience, but have you learned anything yet? Are you starting to notice an area of growth for you?
Oh yeah, I think I've grown in so many ways already. Um, as a worker, I think I've grown a lot because the work environment here is a lot different than that in the U.S. And in the U.S., there's a lot more, I feel like, expectations that people have for you versus here, you have to be very intrinsically motivated and almost advocate for yourself in your work environment, which is something I have never had to do before. Like I've always had my expectations clearly set out for me. Like this is what the job role is. This is what you're to do, um, et cetera, et cetera. And here it's a lot more up in the air. Like I have a lot more control over my work, which has been a challenge. But I think I've become like a better worker, a better team player because of it. And then personally, I feel like I've grown in so many ways. And that's just like when you're thrust into a new environment, you're very much forced to like intrinsically look at yourself and realize like I don't know, almost like what you value the most because you really have to work for everything when you're like alone in a new place. You have to really decide like what you're going to prioritize in your life. And I don't know, I feel like it's made me grow closer with myself. And because of that, I think my relationships have not only not really like improved, but I think I've given more value to them in a way that's like meaningful to me, if that makes sense. Like I've come to appreciate them a lot more when I used to almost take them for granted. And I don't know, I've seen personal growth there for me. Yeah. Nope, not at all. Yeah. No, I've definitely had growth too. I mean, I feel like for me, it's been, I mean, kind of personal, but also professional. But I feel like I tend to be like a perfectionist. I have very like high expectations for myself, and like I don't like struggling, asking for help, anything like that. Like I don't know. I consider myself very independent. But like being in a new environment, like a new work site, like not really having a ton of like friends initially, like everything like that. I think like learning to give myself some grace and like embracing the struggle and like just allowing myself to feel through it instead of like always trying to like fix it or need to be perfect. Like I feel like that's been an area of growth for me. Still kind of working on it, but I mean, it's also I just also think it's been really nice. And also just even the emphasis on work here, like in the U.S., everything seems very work driven, like all the time, and that's just like not really the culture here. Relationships are also like very important, and like anytime I felt stressed out about work, and I've talked to like a Guyanese person, they're like, it's just work, like it'll be fine. You'll go back tomorrow, and like it is what it is. Like it's just a job. And I was like, you know, that's so right. Like perspective. So like, yes, I'm here to do a job, and like I'm trying my best, but like it's okay to have a bad day, and it doesn't mean that like I suck. So I guess that's been an area of growth.
I love it. So we have more questions in the chat, but I want to wrap it up for tonight. So if you have a question that you've sent in but we haven't gotten back to, please feel free to send that to us in an email at contactus@mercyvolunteers.org. And either I can answer it for you or I can pass it along to Emily and Micaela. They're happy to talk about their experiences as well. But want to finish out with asking if you have any advice for people who are considering a year of service in Guyana. What would you have liked to hear at this point in your discernment? A tough question to end on.
Okay. I I don't okay, when I think back to my discernment, I don't know, like I actually can't pinpoint what the deciding factor was. I feel like it was almost a gut feeling where I was just like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And then all of a sudden I was like, I know, like I'm gonna go for it. Um, so if you're discerning right now and you're thinking about coming to Guyana, like first of all, I'm gonna be honest, like this has been the hardest thing I've done in my entire life. And like I just graduated college. So I don't know, I feel like it's a different type of challenge than someone who's like used to school, used to extracurricular, used to like relationship challenges. Like those things are one thing and they're hard, but going somewhere completely new and just kind of being like tossed into life and like expected to do things, it's so much harder than like words can explain, but it's also so much more rewarding than words can explain. And like I feel like I just have a whole different outlook on like life, the world, and what it means to like be human and be alive and like be existing alongside everyone else who's alive right now. So if you're looking for a push to decide yes or no, take this as your push, and it will be a great experience. Well said. Yeah, I mean, I agree with like everything that Ashley said. It's definitely like I don't know. It's the most unique experience. Like I don't know. It's so hard to like describe it and explain it. But I would also say like don't let the challenges or like anything that sounds crazy like deter you.
from it. Like, you do kind of just have to embrace it. Like, to do a year of service, like in Guyana, like things will be a little crazy at times. Like, it will be really hard, but I mean, it'll also be amazing. And like, it's definitely like the best experience of my life, even though it's also been the hardest experience of my life. So just kind of being open and like as prepared as you can be to ride an emotional roller coaster. But I mean, it's great, and I don't want to get off the roller coaster yet. So do it that way you will.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for all those who tuned in tonight. You both are getting lots of love in the chat. So I'll be sure to share those all with you. Um, thanks, Emily and Micaela, for sharing your stories and what it's like to serve in Guyana. If you have any questions or would like to talk with one of them more about their experience, feel free to let us know. Again, our email is contactus@mercyvolunteers.org. We are currently accepting applications, and the priority deadline is January 22nd. And the final deadline for international applications is March 22nd. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. Everyone, have a great night.